For me, it is about the law and people. That is not a legal defense, let me tell you. And how people can resolve and better themselves.
Justice with passion.
I knew I was going to go into law because I always defended everybody. I was always the one who found a solution and tried to resolve the problem by having people talk to each other.
Justice with truth.
So I'm giving you one more chance to tell me the truth.
This is Justice for All with Judge Cristina Pérez. Cheryl Kane is suing Lauren Baz in the amount of $1,670. Ms. Kane claims Mr. Baz was negligent with her son, which caused him to get bit by a sea lion. Mr. Baz claims he warned the plaintiff's son to stay away from the marine life, but he refused.
All parties have been sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you, Bernard. Ms. Kane, I understand your son was injured at summer camp.
Yes, he was, Your Honor.
Okay. Tell me what happened.
Well, Johnny's been attending the summer camp for the past 3 summers, and this particular...
So this would have been his 4th year?
This would actually, this was his 3rd one.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And he's a good kid. He's a little small for his age, so he does tend to be kind of like the class clown and act out a little bit sometimes.
That's an understatement,
but
Your Honor.
okay. No, it's really not. He's a kid.
How old is he?
He's 13.
Oh, okay, 13. I know about 13. Okay.
But anyway, so I get this call from Lauren one day, and he says that Johnny's capsized a boat and he has a minor injury. So naturally, I leave work and get over to the sailing center as soon as I can. And when I get there, Johnny's just like sitting there, totally unattended, with a bandage on his arm, and he's just by himself. No one's even there with him.
Did he look like he started seriously injured?
He was crying. Well, I ended up having to take him to the ER.
Okay, all right, slow down. So you got there and he was sitting there. Was he crying when you got there?
Yes, he started.
He was still crying. How long had the incident passed since he was sitting there? Do you remember, Mr. Baz?
Roughly 25 minutes. But
25 minutes. So he was sitting there and he was still crying, her son?
he wasn't crying at all. He was just sitting there with a blank face on his face.
All right. So then you got there and he started crying when you got there.
Crying when I got there, yes.
And he had a Band-Aid where?
It was a bandage on his arm, which was...
Any blood anywhere?
Yes, there was blood.
Okay, on the bandage?
Yes.
Okay, a lot of blood or a little blood?
Quite a bit of blood.
Okay.
He ended up having...
Not as much blood as she's telling you.
So a little blood, you saw some blood.
He ended up having to have 7 stitches, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, so there was blood, you saw him, he was sitting by himself. What else happened?
Well, when I went to find Lauren to try to find out what happened, he said that Johnny had capsized a boat and was harassing the sea life. But when I talked to Johnny, he said that the conditions out on the water had gotten windy, that the boat capsized accidentally, that he then had gotten bitten by a sea lion. And so, you know, then I don't know whether he's going to have rabies or whatever, so I had to take him to the emergency room where he got the stitches, and then they asked me if he'd been vaccinated for rabies, which he hadn't. So that means that you have to go through the course to make sure you don't get rabies, because you don't know. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but that's there's like 4 shots that you have to take, and it's over the course of 2 weeks. It's like the 3rd day, the 7th day, the 14th day, and it also makes you really ill. So he had to go through this horrible process of like a 2-week period, because they allowed him to get into this situation where he got bit by a sea lion.
Okay. All right. And so why do you say they allowed him to be bit? So explain to me what the camp did wrong. And I understand, Mr. Lauren, you are the manager and you're here on behalf of the camp. Tell me about the camp.
So basically the point of this camp is to teach kids and introduce them to water sports such as canoeing and kayaking and sailing, and learning how to use the laser, which is the boat that young Johnny was on the day of this incident. But, Your Honor, Johnny would not have been in this incident had he listened to my rules and gone by the contract that his mother, that Miss Kane, signed herself before he even enrolled in the program.
Okay, so tell me about this.
Well, I actually have the evidence of the contract and the boat.
Okay, so why don't you tell me what happened? This is Johnny's 3rd summer with you.
Correct.
So what kind of boy is Johnny?
Well, as Miss Kane said, he's a typical teenager. He likes to be goofy and try to be the center of attention, but he also has a problem with listening and following directions. You know, one of the things we tell these kids is don't harass the sea life, you know, and especially during mating season, which was the case in this particular week when Johnny, at the end of the day, and I allowed them leisure time to take out the boat, he beeline straight for 2 sea lions.
Yes.
Coming up on Justice for All.
And then the next thing I know, the mother gets 4 of her teeth on Johnny's arm, and I'm able to grab him before she takes another bite.
And later,
You need to go home and look at yourself in the mirror and think about everything that happened today. I mean, really honestly.
But I feel like
just absorb it.
closed captioning provided by. We're back with the case of Cheryl Kane, who is suing Lauren Baz for $1,670.
Tell me what happens afterwards.
So Johnny intentionally capsized the boat. He wasn't, the wind didn't knock it over, the sea lion didn't knock it over.
How do you intentionally capsize the boat? Explain that.
The way you swing in the boat, because the boat only weighs about 100 pounds and it's 9 feet long. The mast, the sail is about 15 feet high, and you only have one rope to control this, or to steer it, excuse me. So he was shaking it around enough, and then finally he tipped over enough that the boat was just sitting there in the water.
That
and it wasn't
is
like
not-
he made any
I have a statement
real
from him.
effort to
That's not
get it
what
back,
happened.
you know, upright right away. And he wasn't trying to swim back to shore or anything. I saw him reach his arm out towards the mama sea lion because she was out there with a baby sea lion. And then the next thing I know, the mother gets 4 of her teeth on Johnny's arm, and I'm able to grab him before she takes another bite.
Has he ever had any other problems at the camp?
He's had some other issues. One time, a kid was going to eat a sandwich, and Johnny slapped the sandwich out of his hand and said, "Oh, it's not a sandwich
Did you
anymore,
ever
it's a
complain to his
sandwich."
mom?
Excuse me?
Did you ever complain to his mom?
I've had to make several phone calls to
Is that
Miss
true,
Kane.
Miss Kate?
He's made a couple of phone calls to me, yes, and
About his behavior?
about his behavior.
And Ms. Kane, from your prior experience of the first, second, and now third year, you've been satisfied with the camp all those 2 years before?
Overall, yes.
And you're okay with the fact that this camp was designed to teach the kids how to take a boat out on their own?
Yes, but I also think that there's adult supervision for a reason, and they also know the kids and they know what their tendencies
there was adult
are.
supervision, and the rules are you can take it out. We're watching you. Obviously, he was watching them because how would he have known that he went beeline straight for the sea lions?
But
so
that-
why,
I have a
why
statement
would
here
Johnny
from my
beeline straight to
son.
the sea lion?
I have a statement here from my son.
No, the statement for your son doesn't help me. He's a 13-year-old little boy that's going to say anything not to get in trouble. So you can give Renard the statement. I'm not real sure how much. Let me guess what he's going to say. That he took out the boat and that they weren't taking care of him and that the wind was so bad that the boat got capsized and he lost control and kind of didn't know where he was and he was near the sea lions and he was trying to get back on the boat and the sea lion bit him.
That's what he says, yes.
I didn't even have to read a statement. That's pretty convenient. If children and parents do not follow the rules of a camp can only be responsible for their own negligence, things that they do that they fail to take care of the children. I do not find that defendant in any way acted in a negligent manner, in a way to intentionally or carelessly hurt your son. On the contrary, I think your son took advantage of the rules, took advantage of the relationship. You yourself said he's a class clown. He likes to be the center of attention. And that's exactly what he did. So make this as a lesson. Don't coddle him, and because he's not going to learn what he did, okay? So based on the evidence, I will rule in favor of the defendant and deny your claim, Ms. Kane. Good luck.
All rise.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
The judge was right. Thank you for saving Johnny, but you really did hurt his feelings when you kicked him out of camp.
When Johnny grows up in a few years and he's a little more mature, he's more than welcome to come back to my camp.
Coming up on Justice for All.
He seemed to understand. He obviously liked the money part of it. So he agreed. And sure as he always does, he breezed through the master's program like it was nothing.
Wow.
David Mendoza is suing his nephew, Ben Mendoza, in the amount of $10,000. Mr. Mendoza claims he agreed to pay for his nephew's grad school only if he worked for him for a year. Mr. Mendoza admits that he did agree to his uncle's terms, but then realized that he wanted to pursue his passion.
All parties have been sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you, Bernard. Mr. Mendoza, you are suing your nephew for $10,000.
Yes, Your Honor.
What did you do?
Well, I was working at my uncle's company. It's a CPA firm as a staff accountant. He wanted me to work there for a year. I worked there as best as I could, and I helped out a lot. I helped train the other employees. I updated the technology. But an opportunity came where I had to start up a new company with a friend of mine, a new software company. And so I just had to let my uncle know that I can't work there anymore, and so I had to leave.
Okay.
But it's a principle, Your Honor, and if I may, I'd like to give you the background on how this whole thing started.
I'm listening.
Well, a few years back, my brother told me that Ben was thinking about going into to the local university to study economics. I own and run a CPA firm.
Very successful,
and
yeah.
I've done that for 20 years, and I started on a shoestring. And so I know exactly how it is to start from nothing.
Okay.
My brother said that Ben always had a gift for numbers, as most parents are telling other people about their kids. But to my surprise, he was completely accurate. Ben went through the undergraduate program like I've never seen anybody do before. I mean, he just excelled at everything. Okay? So about 2 years, going back, about 2 years into his undergraduate program, he decided to go into finance. To my excitement and surprise, he wanted to go into finance, which was even closer to what I do. So I supported him, and he actually got a finance degree. Okay, so with this in mind, I told him, I said, Ben, you know, I think you're a lot better than this clerk job that you got right now. Why don't you think about a master's degree? And I said, let me tell you why a master's degree is good for you. One, it opens up all the doors. Whether you work here for me or not, the doors will be open for any company or any business you want to get into because you have a master's in accounting. Secondly, it qualifies you for a higher pay grade. And to which he said, well, Uncle, we can't afford it. We simply can't afford it. And to which I offered him a loan. I said, look, I'll loan you the money to go to this 2-year degree to get your master's. And he said, well, we can't pay you back. I said, well, here's what we'll do. When you get your master's, all you have to do is work for the company for 1 year. That'll give you enough time to figure out whether you want to do this or not. Okay?
It's reasonable.
Yeah, and I said, look, you'll go from making $50,000 a year to $90,000 a year because I'll make you a staff accountant. And you'll learn all the ins and outs. So he seemed to understand. He obviously liked the money part of it. So he agreed. And sure as he always does, he breezed through the master's program like it was nothing.
Wow.
Coming up,
He said that he would offer to pay for it. And so who wouldn't want to take that deal? Who wouldn't want to go to school and have higher potential and have someone pay for it?
we're back with the case of David Mendoza, who is suing Ben Mendoza for $10,000.
I understand, Mr. Mendoza, that you came to the agreement, so you agreed that this was going to happen. You would go to the master's program. Your uncle would pay for it completely from the firm?
Yes, and it was actually contractual too.
And can you give me the original
Sure.
contract? I have a copy.
Sure.
And you guys confirmed this in writing, right? Explain to me what the contract was all about,
So
in your words.
when it was offered to me, I was doing really well at the firm and as a clerk after undergrad. My uncle was very proud of me, and he just told everybody about it, told the family, told all the coworkers, like, this is my nephew, like, he's gonna do it all. And he wanted me to go to grad school. And I thought, well, that's kind of a good opportunity. I could, you know, learn finance and accounting and be open to all these other fields. And so he said that he would offer to pay for it. And so who wouldn't want to take that deal? Who wouldn't want to go to school and have higher potential and have someone pay for it?
And have a job ready right when you get out.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And
At such a reputable firm.
Right, and I told my parents about that, and they said, well, of course you're going to take it, like, just do it. And so I think it was a lot of pressure from my parents too, but I thought it was a good idea. So
When you signed this contract, nobody was put a gun in your head, nobody forced you to do it, you thought this is a great opportunity.
Yeah, not a gun to my head, but the family obligation thing, it's a lot of pressure as well.
Judge Perez's verdict when Justice for All returns.
I'm here to teach him a lesson that in business, there are responsibilities and there are commitments that he has to learn. If he's going to start his own company, he better know what those two words mean. Otherwise, he's never going to succeed.
You need to go home and look at yourself in the mirror and think about everything that happened today. I mean, really honestly.
But I feel like
just absorb it, okay? But what I have in front of me is actually a valid lawsuit. I'm sorry I had a rule against you, but it's the only right thing to do, okay? So based on the evidence, I find that there was a valid contract between the two of you. It was a very simple quid pro quo. You pay him $10,000 for school, you go work for them for a year, you didn't do that. I can't make you go work for them, but I can make you reimburse them for the $10,000, okay? Good luck, men. And good luck, Mr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All rise.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $10,000.
I hope you learned your lesson today and that you honor your commitments in the future, okay? And I want you to know that I'm here for you whenever you need me.
And I'm sorry, Uncle Dave, for handling the situation the way I did. I should have been more mature about it, and I'm glad that I can come to you for business advice.